Welcome to Vulnerability, Introspection and Growth, the podcast where we explore the beautiful, messy and transformative magic that happens when we dare to go within. I'm your host, Robin Harris, and in each episode we'll dive into real, honest stories from people who've faced their fears, embraced their vulnerabilities, and discovered unexpected growth in their personal lives, careers, or businesses. This is a space for deep listening, open hearts, and soul-nourishing conversations. Because when we meet ourselves in our rawest moments, that's often where our greatest wisdom starts. Let's begin. Hello and welcome to this, the final episode of VIG, Vulnerability, Introspection and Growth, before the podcast transitions into its new form. So welcome. And today I have a very special guest with me. Her name is Karon Clements, and she's particularly special for me because she comes from Northern Ireland, my own home country. So you may notice that my Northern Irish accent comes out a little bit more strongly as we dive into this conversation. Welcome, Karon. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you very much, Robin, and I'm very privileged to be here. And yeah, I'm looking forward to what comes up next.
Oh, I'm looking forward to our conversation very much as well. And as always, I'm going to start with an introduction. Karon is an emotional freedom technique trainer of trainers with the EFT and Mindfulness Center. She has used this amazing technique alongside the law of attraction to turn her life around. She also does healing work with people and animals, loving to inspire others to create their best lives and get their health back. Having survived the breakup of a 25-year relationship, she's now thriving and is passionate about sharing the tools and techniques which supported her. And if you're at all familiar with my story, you may have seen how many overlaps there are between myself and Karon and the things that we've been through, which is why I'm so excited to explore this conversation today. So, Karon, just as a quick fire round to help the listeners and the viewers tune in and know what we're going to be talking about this afternoon, what makes your story relatable for others?
Well, I see far too many absolutely lovely ladies that after a relationship ends, that they feel their life has ended, or they shut themselves off and say, no, I don't want another relationship. And maybe they don't, maybe that is the right avenue. But if you can clear all the blocks and all the hurt and anything else and beliefs that you've made along the way, then it leaves you open to getting what's best in life and what is available rather than just shutting yourself down. So I would love that my story would inspire women that are sitting back going, no, that's not for me, to think, yes, it could be. I have a choice.
Absolutely, that's the thing, isn't it? To know that we have that choice and to be able to make that choice rather than feel we're limited or restricted in any way. And who do you feel will gain the most from listening in?
Well, I always gain a lot from saying it out loud, and it's a reminder. But those people that have had a breakup and are still feeling very vulnerable and not sure where their life is going to go, feel very much at sea that what's going to happen next, that are not feeling safe, that people they have given them the power to, whenever they are looking for that relationship to have worked, that somebody can take it away from you and it leaves you feeling vulnerable. But whenever you really delve into it, for me, the biggest change was that I then realized that I had to make myself feel safe, that I had to give myself that self-respect and get my confidence back. There was nobody going to do it for me. And yeah, that was a sort of turning point for me where I realized it was my job and that I had choices. Once I cleared out the hurt and tapped away, as we talk about our tapping, and most days I did tap, so I never had a bad day. But when I felt a bad moment coming on, I could tap, and it usually ended up going, okay, so I'm going to give my power away to that person. Yeah, I'm going to ruin my day because sure, it'll all be worth it. So I'm very sarcastic with myself. It wouldn't be just as harsh on a client, but it's the self-talk as well that makes such a difference.
Absolutely. And I think you've kind of covered within that my third question that I normally ask my guests. What do you hope people will take away? That sense of having a choice, and that it is our responsibility, as I talk about, that we have that power of choice and response rather than reaction or fear. And I love that you've already said we get to be our sense of safety. We get to take back our ability to create that for ourselves rather than to rely on externals and how they are, because otherwise we might not feel safe. But once we know, I've got this, I
Yeah.
can tap or I can make changes, I get to make the choices that enable me to feel safe, because that's such an important part of the healing process, the whole journey through this time that does feel very uncertain and potentially constantly changing, because we've just left a relationship and we don't know where we're going. We don't know what the future holds.
Yeah, for me, it was so important to be on my own for a while because I hadn't been on my own for a very, very long time. And that gave me the opportunity to connect with me. And I learned the power of meditation, of taking that 15, 20 minutes every day to, to quieten my mind and let go of all the resistance. And I felt a great power in that. Um, and it gave me time to work out what was important for me. And bit by bit, then that started to all evolve in a way that I could never have worked it out, never by working really hard at it and studying really hard. I just couldn't have done it because I had reconnected to myself. Then it all started unfolding really at the right time and the right pace. And also, I suppose I was really using my law of attraction and thinking, you get what you think about, whether you want it or not. So, what do I want from this day? And probably living day by day initially. And
And
also, there was a great part in not looking back with bitterness, you know, tapping, letting all that go, because I didn't want what had happened to me to change me as a person. I wanted to be kind. I wanted to be, I probably wasn't kind enough to myself now, to be honest, but I didn't want it to change me as a person. And I had no idea what the future was going to hold, but it did work out really well for me.
that's such an important point, isn't it? To have some space and time just for myself.
Yeah.
Because I know that in previous relationships, I have lost myself because I'm a recovering people pleaser. And I would have put the other person first and myself right down at the bottom of the list and lost myself within that whole process. So that time and space just to get back into knowing who am I and appreciating that and building that relationship of trust again and connection and knowing
Yeah.
my likes so that I can then make those choices, knowing my values, so that I can make the right choices from that place rather than maybe rolling straight into another relationship and not yet having had the time to discover those things for myself. And like you say, that bitterness, am I bringing that baggage into any next relationship where
Yeah.
that might not allow me to be as free as I would otherwise be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was such an important time for me. And suppose this is where even good friends, you can listen, but you don't need to take their advice because everybody's talking from their own perspective. They may mean very well, but you know what's important to you. And I think it is such an important time to reconnect and realize, and I'm sure we'll mention it more than once, your own power. That, you know, you don't need to be like a cork bobbing about in the sea, that you're vulnerable to what somebody else chooses to do, which they have every right to do. But you know, we sometimes have all these preconceived ideas. If only they would do this, then we would be happy. And if only they wouldn't do this, and who has the power then? It's certainly not us. That it gives us that freedom to know that we're in charge of our destiny, no matter what.
There might be some
Yeah,
people listening to this conversation and either at the point of thinking, maybe I'm not going to stay in this relationship, or having already taken that step and left the relationship. And they're currently listening to this and thinking, but I don't know who I am. How can I make those choices when I don't know who I am? I've just come out of a long relationship, or not so long, depending, and I feel a bit lost. I don't know who I am as a single person. Do you have any great tips that you can share for giving ourselves that space, giving ourselves that time? Because it's not going to happen necessarily overnight. So the
no.
time, the space, the permission, the support that enables us to reestablish that connection.
Suppose for me, it very much was making a daily practice of meditating. And I am not very good with doing anything regularly. It's just not who I am. But there's not a day goes past where I meditate before I get out of bed, that I listen to something inspirational that is usually very, very relevant to what's going on in my head at that moment in time. And I tap with intention of what I want that day, and that may only take a few minutes. And then if something bigger comes up, that I can feel that in my body, then I will take the time and I will do the tapping on myself. Or if I feel that I'm not going to get a good result, I will call a practitioner and say, I want to get this sorted now. And it may take time, and be kind to yourself. So many of my friends were going, oh, let's get on plenty of fish, you know, you need to get out there. And thankfully, very wisely thought, not a chance. I need to know. And sometimes it's when you know what you don't want. You can look back at the relationship, not in hatred or anything like that, or bitterness, but can look back and go, you know what, I didn't like that aspect, you know. So because of that, I want somebody that's honest. You know, I felt I couldn't really talk that well. You know what? I want somebody I can talk to. Sometimes it takes you to just know what you don't want, so that you can turn it round and think, yeah, that would be important to me, and trust your reaction. If you think of something and it feels heavy, well, no, you're not ready for it. Don't try and rush, and you will be amazed at what turns out for you if you can just look for something that makes you happy, that means something to you. Appreciation is such a wonderful tool to get that good energy going within you, because there's nobody else that can do it for you. You know, it's up to you, that responsibility. And there's not everybody is responsible, because if you're in the blame game and say, well, it was their fault, and if they hadn't done that, I mean, you may be right on a level, but who's got the power there? Then there's nothing you can do. But if you can turn it round and somehow believe that things are meant to happen. You know, not every relationship is meant to be a whole lifetime. Some very short, and you learn a bit from it, you get the wisdom and you move on and you're a bit clearer what's right for you. Others, as I say, mine was 25 years, and it was a big shock, and I could hardly eat or sleep or function. But with the tapping, I was able to calm down my nervous system. And then this frontal lobe at the start could start to work, and I got good ideas. And it's important to get yourself out of that fight or flight, however you choose to do it, so you can think clearly, and you don't need to make rush into decisions and that was important for me, and it worked. And I was actually amazed at how much I genuinely was enjoying being on my own. Um, I didn't think I would, but I was.
You're raising so many really valuable points there. I don't think we're even going to have time to cover all of them, but just absolutely that time, that space, that allowing. And I love also that you had a practice that has become a regular practice. You mentioned meditation, you mentioned listening to inspirational pieces, people, and that's very much something that's been part of my practice too. And that you're not somebody who easily commits to something on a regular basis, but that when we do these things and we start to feel better, I feel lighter, I've got greater clarity back. I feel safer in my body. When we start to feel, or not even be able to put our finger on what it is, but I just feel a bit better.
Yeah.
Then the practice becomes self-fulfilling, doesn't it? It just builds its own momentum. I want more of this. This is fun. And a big thing for me was being playful with it all.
Yes.
Just experiment. There's no right and no wrong, and nobody's judging or um, assessing your ability on this or marking you or anything like that. It's just, oh, I'm going to try this today. Let's see how it goes. And I'm like you. If it feels heavy to me, that's a no go for now.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I
Yeah.
can't revisit it, but for now, it's not doing it for me. But the thing that kind of lifts me up, or those sayings of makes your heart sing, makes your heart smile,
Yeah.
those it's those for me, those inner sensations of I'm quite enjoying this or I'm liking this. Just play with it, just go with it. It doesn't have to be anything big, it doesn't even have to feel like it's directly connected. But if it's lighting you up and if it's fun, then that's giving you information about your values and about your choices and about the things that support and uplift you, which I
Yeah.
think is all great information and wisdom, like you said. But I think a lot of people as well may be listening into this conversation, and we've been talking about tapping, we've been talking about EFT because we're both practitioners. But some people might be going, what is this thing? Emotional freedom technique, tapping? I haven't heard of that before, or I'm not familiar with it. So can you give us just a quick, I know it's not easy, but can you kind of share with us what EFT is and how it works?
Well, I do train people regularly for 3 days to become practitioners in this because I'm so passionate about it, because I do think it made such a difference to how I recovered from that person feeling vulnerable. How will I cope? I don't have any money. I haven't got a house. Where am I going to live? All that stuff. And it is simply using the acupuncture points, and they're very simple. There's not lots of them. And you tap on these while you say things as they are. It's not about positive chat. It's not about, oh, I feel great today. If you're feeling rubbish, you tap and you say, I'm feeling rubbish right now. And you keep tapping with that acceptance. And you can add in, but I'd actually like to let that feeling go, or I'd like to feel better. So you use it, and what it does by using these points is it calms down that fight or flight part of your brain, that amygdala. And when that happens, you can start to use this frontal lobe, and you get good ideas, and you keep tapping until you feel something has shifted. And then you think, as I said earlier, am I going to give my power away to other people? They don't care what I'm feeling like today, nor is it their job to. But you know what? I'm deciding right now that I'm going to feel slightly better. I'm going to allow myself to feel slightly better. So you have that self-talk and you can use it yourself. If it's something big, if it's a belief, I would recommend you use a practitioner. But this is scientifically proven that this will calm your body down, and it can work for so many powerful things. For changing long-standing beliefs that you're now realizing, I did believe that and that's not working. Like for me, it was, I'm not capable, I'm not important. So I'm able bit by bit by bit let them go and replace them. And you can release the trauma of this different aspects of your specific relationship, not just a general tap, but you can make it specific to you, how you're feeling, and then how you want to feel. And I could talk about it for a long time, and it sounds unbelievable, far too easy, far too simple. But once you try it, you realize, gosh, this is a tool I could use all the time. I can take that power back. I can control what I'm feeling. I can get my freedom back. So you might realize how passionate I am about it. And I just would love everybody to know. And it's certainly heading the right direction now. So I'm delighted about that. And yes, I've trained lots of really good practitioners. So if you want to sample it, for anybody out there, I can recommend somebody, if I don't have time, recommend somebody that fits for you so that you can experience it. And then you decide whether this silly tapping thing is useful to you or not. But I love the way people can turn their lives around, and it definitely made it an easier journey for me.
Yeah, I completely agree with you that EFT is so powerful. I've used it on my own journey. I write about it in my book because it helped me write my book. I got to a bit where I was really stuck and struggling, and it was EFT that helped me get back that sense of clarity and that sense of, I get to make these choices. This is my book. I get to choose how I write it, but also with the support of my editor, I get to make it the best that I possibly can. And I love the reframe that it helps us make, as opposed to I have to or I should. I can now see it as I get to. So, like you were saying before about the meditation, I get to meditate. I get to play with these things. I get to listen to inspirational people or pieces. Because before, if I'd have been told this will support your well-being, I would, oh, now I have to meditate. And now I have to listen to inspirational podcasts or whatever, which would have just felt that heavy feeling. But also, just to go back to what you were saying earlier about leaving a relationship of 25 years, there's a grieving process in that as well, isn't there? And that's something else that EFT can really support us with.
Absolutely. And I am intending very, very shortly to do an online program with my new partner that is everything that I ever wanted, to, again, give people hope. But what I've realized, and it's probably stopping me doing it, everybody's circumstances are different. Some people are relieved when they get out of the relationship, and some people are grieving. For me, I felt very insecure, as in, when I started that relationship, I needed rescuing. I've no doubt I needed rescuing. So I had lost my own confidence in my own abilities. So I was grieving that person that I knew I could rely on. That no matter how I felt or where I ended up, that he would have been there for me. So there definitely was that grieving. And but I did choose to turn it around and think of all that he invested in my two girls and how good he was to them. And, with that appreciation of that, nobody can take that away from it. And, if he had responded and breaking up the relationship the way I would really have liked him to, then maybe I would have grieved a lot more. But then he wasn't that person that would have done it the way I thought that it would be nice that it was done. But that's life. And, you know, that made it a lot easier for me because it made me realize what was important to me. So there will be people that will be grieving, and the sad thing is they can choose to do that for the rest of their life, or they can accept that yes, it is a loss, and whatever they're feeling, and with the tapping they can then choose to move forward. And my words won't teach you. You need to experience it to realize the things that come to your mind. And it doesn't have to be done with bitterness, and it doesn't need to change who you are. But everybody's circumstances are different, and that's why I'm sort of stalling and doing this program to cover as many aspects as what is, because you know it is all unique to us and what we make it mean. But in that token, you can turn it around. You can have the life that you want. And from somebody who couldn't even afford to pay rent, I had left myself so vulnerable. I now live in the house of my dreams with the man of my dreams, having a practice that is just perfect for me, and life is wonderful. And if I can do it, anybody can do that. And it doesn't all have to happen at once, and it can be where the amount of growth I've had from that experience is unbelievable, and has been empowering to me, and to realize that it's amazing what you can do.
And that's such an important message in itself, isn't it? You come out of the end of a long relationship, and it can then look, because you're of a certain age, if you've been in a relationship for a long time, you're of a certain age and you think, this is it. What is left now that I'm at this age? Nobody's going to want me at this age with my past. You know, people talk about their baggage, but to know that whatever age we are, every day's a new day, and we can get to start afresh. But when we have all those things that are still rattling around in our head or in our heart, that's where something like a tool like EFT can really help, not to get us bogged down, but to enable us to keep on moving forward. But as you've said, that we get to do it without pushing, at our own pace, in the way that's right for us. And that, I think, is what I love really about EFT, and why it's one of the tools I've learned that I keep on using, and know that I can turn to for in lots of different ways. So you can use it as an emergency when you've had a shock or something, and the K27 point is a great one for that. Just as you say, to come out of that fight or flight, be able to take a breath again, be able to get back some clarity of thinking. Or we can use it to shift those old beliefs, support ourselves when we're grieving or experiencing physical pain as well, or phobias, or a whole raft of things. So I think that is the beauty of EFT and what it can do for us.
Absolutely. And suppose that's why I'm so passionate now. Because of ill health, I have worked very little most of my life, and my health has just been amazing even since the breakup. It is really, I've found different things that have really worked for me. And it is just so inspiring to see how your life can turn around. But the one thing I am passionate about is that everybody should know about EFT. And my way of doing it is I train wonderful practitioners, and they go out and use it in their counselling, as teachers, as psychologists, and they are spreading the word. So it's all rippling out there. And I just think everybody deserves to know that they can control their emotions and give themselves freedom. And they can do it when they want, at the time they want. They don't have to wait for weeks for an appointment for somebody to listen to them. But this changes how you react. You then have a choice. And for, the stories I've heard from women is, oh, all men are blah, blah, blah. And they haven't changed that. So guess what? They go out and find another man that is blah, blah, blah. But if you change, which is something that you can do, if you change and have yourself calm down, and I wrote a list of what was important to me, and it wasn't a huge list. And I trusted that I would find the right person at the right time. And there was a real trust in that. And the good thing was I was quite happy on my own. So it wasn't a rush. And the first person that I entered a relationship with after that was everything on my list and more. So it is possible. And it wasn't done with pushing or hard work or me having to be a different person. It was just being happy. And then I've more things to be happy about.
And it is that law of attraction as well, isn't it? When we are looking at that list or something like that list and believing or just knowing this is what I'm looking for. And like you said, the universe brings you what you think about. So if you think about a man who's trustworthy, a man who is XYZ, the more you think about that, the more you're vibrating with the right energy to attract that into your life. But the aspect of creating that sense of safety and joy and responsibility and freedom, all of that allows that connection as well with the person who's right for me. Because when I'm in that place, then the right person is going to come because I'm in my best self.
You know what, even when you were saying that, like I wrote on my list, I want somebody who has a similar interest. Now I'm a horsey person. It could have been that. I love my swimming. It could have been that. But the universe found another emotional freedom techniques practitioner who has very much the same core values as me and knows that we are both each responsible for making ourselves happy. He doesn't look to me to make him happy. I don't look for him to make me happy. I know that's my job. And it's just such an easy relationship. And when we are together, we have fun and enjoy, but we're not looking for that person to fill a void in us. And I think that's where it's important to be on your own, that you can fill your own void. You can give yourself a lot of the things that you think you need from that relationship. Because if that person's in bad form, one day and isn't all that you think that they should be, then you're unhappy. Whereas if you keep yourself happy and think, oh, well, that's not nice that happened to him, but I'm sure he'll sort it out.
And if we don't take responsibility for the other person, but have responsibility for ourselves, then we stay pretty much in our own lane and we are able to get back to our point of balancing. Because I always think of that as a verb rather than a noun. That's not a one and done, and is it? It's a responding thing to whatever's going on in our current environment. So if I'm in a good place most of the time, then I can show up as my best self. And I allow space for my partner to do that for themselves as well. And then we both bring our best, hopefully most of the time, to that relationship. But for me, it's like you're saying, that sense of I get to do this. This is within my responsibility. I get to feel safe. I get to trust myself. Yes, I can look outside for information, but like you were saying before, advice from other people is advice from where they are, from their perspective, their experience, and just where they are in their lives right now. That's not my experience. That's not where I am in my life right now. If there are similarities, sure, I can take some of that advice. But at the same time, I get to choose how much of that advice resonates for me rather than just following it blindly and then
Yeah.
maybe discovering that it wasn't right for me. But we can discern
Yeah.
and choose and get to play with and experiment with and adopt and adapt as
Yeah.
feels right for us. And if we make a choice that doesn't feel so good in the end, that's fine. Plot
Yeah.
twist and just make another choice. But
Absolutely.
it's that sense of freedom,
Yeah.
knowing I am my own safety, I am my own
Yes.
strength. And I
Which I
love,
didn't realize, I didn't realize that before the
yeah,
relationship ended,
yeah.
so yeah, no, it's brilliant what you're saying. I totally agree with you.
I love Brene Brown's way of putting it. Having a strong back, soft front, and a wild heart. Because I can't remember, it's a book where she's talking about being out in the wilderness and that life is the wilderness, which I love because it works well with my wild.
Yes.
But that sense of we are untamed. We don't have to be domesticated. We don't have to be conditioned. We get to be who we are by nature. But when we
Yes.
take care of that and we support that, then by Robert Bly's quote, we're not chaotic, we're not crazy, as in wild, wild, but what we are is nature's design wild, like a tree or a wild animal, a bird. They just do their thing. A
Yeah.
tree doesn't try to be more tree. An apple tree, as my boss used to say, doesn't try to grow pears. They just do what's natural for them. And when we do that, when we give ourselves that space, time, and permission and support with things like EFT, I
Yeah.
think it's truly beautiful.
It is, it is. And even after talking to you today, I'm thinking, right, get this program done, an online program that people can follow in their own time and maybe have a live as well to keep track of people, because there's too many wonderful women out there that have just cut themselves off from getting exactly what they want. And you can have it all. You really can.
You can have all that is what is right for you. We don't
Right.
want it all, really, do we? We want this,
What's right?
this, and this. You drew up your list for what you wanted in a man, and it wasn't everything. And yet, the things that were right for you, you got them all.
I did. And
So,
more, and more.
so it's not about being greedy or selfish. It's about what allows me to be as I think, what allows me to be as fully me as I can be. And then in that, I overflow to others to support them and create space for them to be their fullest self. And I think if everybody was able to do that, then the world would probably be full of all these amazing, wonderful, wise beings sharing all of that.
Absolutely. And, why should anybody change to please us as well? You know, they're entitled to be themselves and do what lights them up. And I think it's a trait that isn't sort of emphasized enough, that let people be. It's so empowering for everybody. And yeah, I love the freedom I have, and I've loved the journey that I have been on and will continue on. And it is such fun to keep growing, because I myself am very happy, but it's not a certificate I put in the wall behind and then it's done. It's something that you're constantly balancing, rebalancing, and adjusting to life, because, things do happen that are not where you're absolutely busting with joy, but you still know that that joy is deep in there, and that things will change if you can keep the focus. And things happen to friends, and you lose friends, but you still have the love there. The loves can always be there. So It's not that and I'm sure you're not saying either that, oh, just always be happy, happy, happy. But it's knowing that you can get back to that. It's knowing that you have the tools, and tapping is just the easiest one I know, that can bring yourself back into line and that you can learn how to use yourself. So yeah, that's my mission.
And that's a beautiful place at which to draw this to a close. Thank you, Karon. But I'm sure there are lots of people who are watching this, listening into this conversation and thinking, oh, I want to know more about EFT. I want to connect with Karon. How can they do that?
I always have multiple profiles and WhatsApp groups coming out of my ears, but Karon Clements, it's Karon Clements, on Facebook. My website, kchealthmatters.com, and I have a few online programs on that, which combines tapping with law of attraction, and the Create Your Life is for free. Tap into your power, £20 at the moment, and Tap into Change, which teaches you how to tap in the scripts for yourself. And EFTtappingtraining.co.uk for somebody that maybe wants to take it a bit further and do an accredited training, either the foundation or carry on to the practitioner level, because it fits so well, and you would know that, into most modalities. So yes, and on Facebook as well, Health Matters, because health is very important to me, and how to guide people and give them hope that they don't need to be stuck in ill health. You can start to shift it bit by bit. But no, thank you for all your time. And oh, it says my battery is running low here, so maybe that is
So we'll
why
draw it
I
to a
must have
close.
switched to that.
Thank you so much, Karon, for everything you've shared. You've been a wonderful guest. And if you have been wanting to connect with Karon as you've listened to this conversation, her links will be below as always. So this is me signing off from the VIG podcast, but do pop over. The Wild podcast will be up and running very soon, and it'll be wonderful to see you there. Bye for now. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Vulnerability, Introspection and Growth. I hope it's given you a moment to breathe, reflect, and perhaps even see your own story with a little more compassion. If you found this conversation meaningful, I'd love it if you'd share, subscribe, or leave a review. It helps others find their way here too. Until next time, take gentle care. And remember, the journey inwards is where the real growth begins.